Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Devin Haney's resume sucks. Believe that or you don't. Now, the reason why I'm creating this video is because somebody actually went back and forth with me. Two people. One person was telling me that his resume sucked, right? I disagreed. The other person was telling me that his resume was the best at 135. And I said, I don't know, but let's take a look. So the bottom line is, it was a kind of a three-way conversation, and I was almost like in the middle, like the mediator, and these two guys are ready to kill each other over Devin Haney and his resume and what they feel he has done or hasn't done. But when you talk about 135 pounds, there's a lot of guys there, man. But the bottom line, the two names that they were really talking about, no one talked about Shakur Stevenson, even though Shakur Stevenson has won titles in a couple weight divisions, right? But he wasn't even part of the conversation. But the conversation really evolved around Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis. Now, when you look at Devin Haney, right, 31 wins, he has 15 KOs, right? Almost a 50% KO ratio, which is pretty damn good. Stands at 5'8", reach about 71 inches, which isn't bad at all. And he's been putting in the work. Now, the thing about Devin Haney, a lot of people have an issue with him because I think it's because of his pops, man, because his pops is so damn out there, right? But then you have Gervonta Davis, 29 wins, 27 KOs, 93% KO ratio. It's about 5'5", 5'6", 67.5-inch reach. But Gervonta Davis, there are a lot of people who I think dislike him. They say he's just a little too street. But at the end of the day, when you start looking at Gervonta Davis and Tank, I like both of them, okay? I think they're both great fighters. But let's just kind of scroll down here and see what Tank's resume really looks like. Now, let me just bring this over. And we want to look at the records of the guys that they fought too. So, I don't know how far back we're going to go. Let's just start, how about we just start here with this guy, Hugo Ruiz, right? Tank scrapped with him in 2019, February 9th, 2019. He was 39 wins and 4 losses. Looks pretty respectable. Some people probably really won't know the name. Ricardo Nunez, 21 wins, 2 losses, so he had a winning record. Yuriorkis Gamboa, look, he had been around for quite some time at this point, but still, was a big name. 30 wins and 2 losses. He fought Leo Santa Cruz. Some people felt like, hey, look, he brought a smaller man up, even though to me, Leo Santa Cruz looked bigger. He had 37 wins, 1 loss. He was winning that fight against Tank Davis until Tank tranquilized him. Then Mario Barrios was a champion. Tank went up, won the title by beating Barrios, who was undefeated at the time. Some people have an issue with that win because of the rehydration clause and everything else. They don't want to give Tank credit for the win, although he went up to 140 pounds and clipped a very vicious champion. Then there was a Pitbull Cruz fight. A lot of people feel because Tank didn't knock him out, that Tank lost that fight. Pitbull Cruz was on Tank's ass, but Tank, very obvious there was something wrong with one of his hands. And he still managed to get the lopsided decision. The thing with Pitbull Cruz is he's a come forward fighter looking for the mashup, crash up. And if he can't, get close enough to you to let his hands go, Pitbull Cruz is dead in the water. So that's what Tank just basically moved around, boxed, and frustrated Pitbull Cruz, and Tank went on and got the easy decision. Then he went and fought Rolly Romero in a fight where it looked like Rolly was having more success than what we expected. Undefeated fighter, but he got careless. And look, I'll tell you what, that fight with Rolly and Tank had people on the edge of their seats. Not because of the build-up, just because they were surprised at Rolly. Like you can see, like Tank didn't like getting hit by him. But Rolly got over-anxious, overzealous. Tank tranquilized him. Then Tank goes and he fights Hector Luis Garcia, who's an undefeated fighter and was coming off of a very impressive win over Chris Colbert, right? Anyway, Hector Garcia bubbled up. This is what kills me. They're like, oh, he's a smaller fighter. These guys are much bigger than Tank. They fight down at 130 because they can, make that weight. But really, they probably can carry more than 135 pounds on them. It's just a lot of these fighters choose to kill themselves down for a moment in time weigh-in to a weight they probably shouldn't be at. But anyway, it was a very interesting fight. Garcia had some moments. He looked good in the fight. But when Tank let his hands go, I mean, you could just see Garcia didn't like it. Whenever Tank let his hands go, he had some serious success. And he was just chipping away at Garcia until he finally cracked the surface and was able to really dig in and get him out of there. Garcia didn't want to come out because obviously, he felt that power from Tank. And he said his vision was blurry or some shit. But Tank earned that victory because it wasn't easy. Then he fought Ryan in another victory. Ryan was undefeated. I think that was Tank deserves a lot of credit for that win because Ryan Garcia was putting the bing on him. Ryan Garcia was fighting rough, and Ryan Garcia was having a lot of success. He hurt Tank. But the thing is, Ryan Garcia really was going left-hand crazy, and that just backfired on him. And obviously, Ryan came out and said he had some kind of issue with his rib. Should have never took the Tank fight if he injured, but understand, talk about Ryan Garcia made like $30 million. Yeah, I'd get into a fight with an injured rib myself, you know what I mean? But some people don't want to give Tank the credit for that win because Ryan was injured, Ryan's a bum, Ryan's a YouTube star. I think he deserves credit for that win because Ryan Garcia can fight. And you saw how Ryan, how he rebounded when he fought Duarte. Ryan Garcia and Duarte was no joke. That was a fight that pushed Ryan Garcia. So long story short, this is what you got with Tank Davis. Ryan Garcia was undefeated. Hector Luis Garcia was undefeated. Rolly was undefeated. Pitbull Cruz had 1 loss. Barrios was undefeated. Santa Cruz had 1 loss. Gamboa had 2 losses. Nunez had 2 losses. Hugo Ruiz had 4 losses. So you can see right there, I mean, goddamn, those opponents, their records, those are all winning records, okay? So Tank Davis' record looks pretty damn good to me. Now let's take a look at old Devin Haney. So when you come and you start taking a look at Devin Haney's record, right? He fought Regis Prograis at 140. Regis had 1 loss. Regis was supposed to be the boogeyman. The difference with Devin bubbling up to 140 and Tank going to 140 is Devin didn't put a rehydration clause on Regis, but Devin just happened to rehydrate to almost 400 pounds. You know what I'm saying? Devin Haney rehydrated way more than Regis Prograis. So that just lets you know just how big Devin Haney is. But in that fight against Regis, I think Devin Haney deserves credit for that win, but his team is smart. Because Zorrilla gave everybody the blueprint on how to beat Regis. You just outbox him. Regis started boxing late. He's not quite a pit bull Cruz style, but he's a guy who needs to be able to get close enough to you to bang on you. Because Regis can crack and he can fight. But you saw against Devin and against Zorrilla. Regis, if he can't get to you, he kind of lost. He's just kind of in the breeze. So I want to give him credit for that win because he was able to pick up that WBC strap. But a lot of people don't want to give him credit for that win because they said they knew that Regis wouldn't put up much competition because of how he performed against Zorrilla and the fact that the Regis who fought Devin is not the same Regis who fought Josh Taylor. Saying Regis is kind of washed up a bit. But that being said, I don't know. I think that's a pretty big deal, him beating Regis Prograis. Even though I called it, I thought Devin would beat him. Then before that, he had Vasily Lomachenko. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, when I first watched Devin Haney and Lomachenko fight, and Regis was 29-1, Lomachenko 17-2, right? I thought Lomachenko beat Devin Haney. And then I went back and watched the fight again and broke it down minute by minute. Devin Haney beat Lomachenko. But it's so subjective. Who was landing the hardest shots and who was hurting the person. And Lomachenko looked definitely when he did let his hands go, like he was definitely making Devin Haney way more uncomfortable than Devin Haney was making Lomachenko. But when you just look at it, minute by minute, Devin Haney was outworking him and landing more shots. Okay, So does he deserve credit for Lomachenko? I think he does, but a lot of people, like 90% of people say he doesn't deserve that. He lost. He should have rematched Lomachenko. Same way they're saying Shakir Stevenson should rematch De Los Santos. I think Shakir can learn from Devin and because people aren't going to let this go until he rematches Lomachenko. Then he fought Kambosos twice. Now, the thing about Kambosos, right? Kambosos beat Teofimo. That's a big name for Kambosos, to get that victory. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Kambosos was better than Teofimo. Sometimes the best fighter doesn't win. It's the fighter who boxes the best on that night. Teofimo had it all wrong. But I also understand Teofimo keeping his weight down somewhere it probably should only be for a moment in time, and him trying to maintain that shit for months after months because fights being canceled, rescheduled, different networks, fights being moved around. Teofimo probably should have just canceled that fight as a whole because he already struggled to get down to 135. And for him to kill himself to get down to that weight and try to maintain it, that was horrible. Horrible. Different kind of discipline. But long story short, Kambosos got the win. And Devin Haney went and fought him twice. First time outboxed him, won a lopsided decision. Second time beat him. But not many people give Kambosos Jr. A lot of credit as a great champion. They just say he was lucky. The sun shined on his ass, which doesn't happen very often for people. But Kambosos took that Teofimo win, and he ran all the way to the bank. Talk about somebody making the most of, I would say, a fluke win. It's Kambosos. He fought Devin twice. He just fought somebody else, and they robbed that person. But anyway, they gave Kambosos the win. Now he's about to fight Lomachenko for another title. So that just lets you know that Kambosos Jr. and his team, they're working. They're working smart. But at the end of the day, Devin, a lot of people, they don't want to give him credit for those wins because they're saying, one, Kambosos wasn't a real threat, and they knew it. That's why they jumped at the opportunity to fight for all those titles. Same way they looked at, what's his name, Regis Prograis, and knew that Regis Prograis, although he was a great fighter, just stylistically, that was a horrible matchup for Regis, and they jumped at that opportunity. So Devin really isn't giving credit for the Kambosos wins. Then he fought Joe Diaz. Joe Diaz was getting outboxed, but he did have some success. And I think that's because Devin kind of let him back into the fight because Devin, again, at this point in time, is trying to prove that he could take a shot and that he could knock people out. And that's why Jojo Diaz got to him more than what Devin would have liked. But anyway, Devin got the win. Jojo Diaz, he had one loss. Kambosos were undefeated. Then he fought Linares. Linares had 5 losses. Linares was a big name, was a champion, but he had been around, wasn't the same guy in his prime, but could still put up a valiant effort. Devin was easily outworking him up until, I don't know what round it was, 8 or 9, where Linares caught him with that. He hit him with the Venezuelan bing bing, like a 5-6 punch combination, and had Devin on Bambi legs. I give him credit for that win, but some people still don't want to give him credit for the win. But he showed me in that fight, once he got hurt, he wised up real quick, and he was clinching and doing everything he had to do to get to the end of the fight and to get the win. But that was a pretty big deal to me for him to get the win because he was hurt. He never fully recovered, I don't think, after he got hit with the Venezuelan bing bing. Then he fought Gamboa. By this time, everybody's fought Gamboa. Gamboa's 30-3. Big name, but Gamboa wasn't Gamboa anymore, But he went in there and did what he had to do against Gamboa, but the fight went to a decision. Then before that, some of these names you're not even going to know. Santiago, Antonio Moran, Zalasansky, and Donganine. But anyway, from there, you're not going to recognize any of those damn names. But the bottom line is when you look at the records, I tend to think Devin's resume is pretty good. Tank's resume is pretty good. I don't think either one sucks. But if you if you're trying to say whose resume is better, Devin or Tank's, I don't know. I think we need to take a look at 140. Barrios against Regis. Both of those guys at 140 without rehydration clauses just going at it. Who wins that fight? Who's a tougher fighter, Regis or Barrios? They never fought. But just think about Regis and Barrios when they were really ripping through the 140-pound division. Who do you think would have won that fight? Okay? So, I really don't know. But what I will say is, the fact that Devin didn't put a rehydration clause on Regis, that matters. So maybe Devin gets a little more credit for that win, okay? But Tank is a much smaller fighter than Devin. So you got small Tank, really to be at 126, fighting a 140-pounder and giving them the business. So it depends on how you want to look at it. Then after that, you look at the fights at 135. If Ryan Garcia fought George Kambosos, I'm talking about Ryan Garcia that fought Tank and the Kambosos that fought Devin Haney, right? Not those guys today. Who do you think would win? I think Ryan Garcia would knock out Kambosos. That's just my opinion. Kambosos' arms just aren't long enough, and he gets hit a lot. And Ryan Garcia would land that goddamn missile left hook, and the Australian will go down faster than a plate Alabama barbecue. So, to me, Ryan Garcia's name is a much bigger deal. Then you got Lomachenko. Again, Devin did beat him, but 90% of people don't want to give him credit for that, so I'm not even going to entertain Devin Haney and Lomachenko. But really outside of that for Devin Haney is Regis, Lomachenko, Kambosos, Linares, Jojo Diaz. When you look at Tank, Ryan Garcia, Hector Garcia, Leo Santa Cruz, Mario Barrios. Those names are pretty damn big, and their accomplishments and their records, it's a pretty big deal. Then when you go down further than that and look at the opponent's Tank's facing the records, it's a pretty big deal. That being said, Devin Haney resume suck. I don't think so. But for those two guys who are going at it, maybe I should have had them on this video so you could hear their positions. To me, they weren't doing a good job articulating their point of view. They were just basically lashing out. But what I will say is, if Devin Haney moves forward and fights Ryan Garcia, and then he moves forward and challenges like a Keith Thurman or a Boots Ennis, and if he can somehow beat Ryan Garcia and get in there with Boots, just don't think he beats Boots. But if you mess around, go out there, F around, and somehow can beat Boots Ennis, there's nothing to argue about anymore. Nothing to argue about anymore. Hell, even if he fights Conor Benn and beats Conor Benn, that's a pretty big deal. Because now you're looking at Devin Haney from 135 to 140 to 147. He's a multiple weight division champion, not just two different weights, and he was undisputed. But some people don't give him credit for that. Now it's a pretty big damn deal. But we gotta wait and see. That being said, you be the judge on whose resume is was better at 135. Was it Tank's? Was it Devin's? Or as where we are today, whose resume is better? Tank, Devin, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo. Whose resume is better? And don't just look at the names. Look at the undefeated records. Look at the records of the fighters they fought. That tells you a whole lot about the level of opposition they were facing. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents, in the breeze.